I'm so honored to be here today with a longtime best friend of mine. She's an incredible human being, a very talented actress. She's a real-life Disney princess and a natural star on the musical stage and on screen. Musical theater credits include Belle in Beauty and the Beast and Sophie in Mamma Mia. So I'm not just saying this like because she's my best friend. I'm saying this because her resume shows it. It is proof. And she has also just wrapped a lead role on an indie film that she did as well. So please welcome my very first guest on my very first podcast, Emalie Forsyth.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
All right, so here we go. Let's go to the beginning. When was the first time that you knew you loved acting or got bit by the acting bug? Like, was there a moment or did you just kind of...
It's so interesting because I guess you always think like, oh, I loved acting ever since I was a kid. And that is really true for me. I remember my elementary school always did Shakespeare plays in grade 5. And I remember being in kindergarten saying, I'm going to be Juliet in Romeo and Juliet when it's our turn to do the play. And sure enough, 5 years later, that's what we did. And I just remember, like, the rest of my class thought it was so boring and, like, Shakespeare, you know, what, like, 10-year-old loves that. But for me, it was so exciting, and I really just got to, like, you know, explore that side of me. And at that time, you know, being a kid was not easy, and this was, like, the best place for me to just safely be myself and feel like, oh, I'm really good at this. And it was so nice to just be on stage. And so I knew kind of since then that that was something I really want to pursue always. And then it just continued on like through high school, doing a lot of shows and things like that, musicals. I never really knew about doing film and how to start that until I left like where I'm from, like in London, Ontario, until I went to...
Shout out London, Ontario.
You suck. Just... No, but how to begin in a film career, I had no idea how to start or even what to do. So, you know, you look at university, and I actually did go to university for a completely unrelated
Why?
thing.
Why did you go to university for a completely unrelated thing? I've never actually knew. I knew you did it, but I never asked why.
Well, okay, I love my parents, but they were very much like, you need a real career, like you need a real job. So my brain goes, oh yeah, psychology is going to give me a real job. So that's what I studied for 1 year. And then I remember literally like feeling so fed up there because I didn't care about what I was learning, and it was fascinating, sure, like I really love psychology, but I could not see myself sitting, you know, behind a shrink's desk and doing that all day. So I remember I like secretly applied to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts.
Yeah, you did.
I saw that they had like their submissions open, so it was for the Charlie Chaplin studio in LA, actually. And so I secretly like filmed myself. I should find that tape. I don't even have it anymore, I don't think. But I secretly filmed myself at home and like wrote up a cover letter and like sent it. And they like mailed me a package back being like, we would love to have you, kind of thing. And I remember like, holy shit, like this is real. So I remember like that summer, it was between first year and second year, I like ran to my parents outside and I was like, look, I can do it. They told me I can do it. Please, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. And they both just kind of looked at me and they're like, okay, if you're serious about this, then let's have a serious conversation. And the serious conversation came up as like, this is a 4-year program and each year is $50,000. So we're seriously not sending you there, but.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So,
the struggle is real.
Oh my God, yeah. So that's basically where that started. It was just like, you have this dream and this thing that you kind of find out, okay, I'm like good in my little school at this, but nobody really looks at it as like a viable option, especially when nobody in my world has done that, right? Like, maybe if I lived here, grew up in this city where like projects get filmed here and like people are actors here everywhere, then people like my parents or whoever would look at it as like, yeah, you know, we see people do this. Where I'm from, like, we don't see people do that.
We farm.
Yeah. We farm. We perform for the cows. Like, so yeah, it's just interesting how that happened.
Not having creative parents is, I mean, like, they're creative in their own right, sure, but like not having the same realm of creativity as us is different for sure.
Yeah, like I am lucky, like in terms of like artistic influence, my dad was like a fine art guy, but he never really got the chance to do that professionally his whole life. He would always be drawing, and he had a shop at one point where he sold things, but this was like when I was very, very young. But all my life, like, he would be drawing, and he was very, very artistic, whereas my mom is very hands-on, very like logical, does like hard work kind of thing. But my dad really like fostered that in me, and he would always be singing too, so it was kind of like, I feel like I get that from him and that influence. And I remember being like 18 or 19 and sitting with him, and he was drawing and I was playing the piano, and he looked at me and he's like, I'm so sorry we never sent you to art school. Like, I'm so sorry we never got to do that. And so it kind of was very validating to me, because, you know, it's so easy now to be in this place and be like, oh, I feel so behind because I didn't grow up, you know, doing dance classes.
Actor.
Yeah, you know, it's like there's all these people who that's what they grow up doing. They are supported right from the start in that way. But yeah, so just to have him say that to me kind of was really like reassuring, like, okay, you really do support me, and if you could have, you would have. Yeah. So I don't feel like regret or any resentment in that sense, which is really nice. But
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. I'm learning so much already about you. I didn't know you did Shakespeare in elementary school either. What? I didn't even know about Shakespeare till like high school, and then I didn't care because I just didn't understand.
I still have lines from that play in my head. Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, of course.
Balcony scene. Come back at the end for a clip of
So once you realized you wanted to do acting and you didn't want to do psychology, what did you do? Did you go to school?
For all those who don't know, yes, I did. And that's where I met Allison.
Oh my gosh, is that where we met?
Yeah. So like I said, my mom and my dad at that point, when they realized like, okay, we do want to seriously look into this, we were trying to find like a school to compromise on. You know, I was thinking like, oh, I have to go to the States. Obviously knowing.
To Juilliard.
Yeah. Could you imagine?
I wish.
Fame. I'm gonna whatever the words are. I have not done that show, but yeah. So yeah. Once we kind of like were looking at schools, it was the choice became like Toronto Film School was an option, because it was like an 18-month program, all intensive, and you know,
no lectures.
Yeah, because it's like when you're weighing schools, like you can look at things like there are really great universities and great programs. Like Sheridan has an amazing musical theater program. George Brown is amazing for theater as well. York University. But I was looking at it like, do I really want to spend 4 years where it's not even the whole year, and like half of these classes I won't really need, like performance history, things like that. So Toronto Film School seemed like a really good option at that time. I will say, like, I am extremely grateful for the time that I had there, because it taught me a lot, not just about like acting, but like life. And I met some of my most amazing friends and like my partner, and like I've been with these people for over 10 years. So I really am grateful for that. But if I had to do it all again,
that was my next question.
Yeah.
Is going back, would you do it? Do you regret meeting me, Emalie?
Every fucking day of my life. because she's making me do this. No, just kidding. Yeah, if I had to do it all again, I probably wouldn't go to school just because I didn't even know how to start then. So having a foundation like, okay, you know, like any other job, you finish high school, you figure out what you want to do, you go to college or university and you do that and then you get a job. Acting is very much not cookie cutter like that. But I had no idea where to start. So this gave me that footing, knowing now I would probably just go to studios and like take acting classes that way. You know, I've even had acting teachers say like, yeah, don't go to university, just go to class and get an agent and be working while you learn. I know for me personally, I might not feel prepared enough if I just did it that way. But yeah, it's good to know that there are so many different ways into this career.
Absolutely,
you know?
yeah. I feel like we were like the beginning of, like you said, our parents being like, you know, you need to go to a school, you need to go to school in order to do anything. And now it's very much, at least for acting, it's very much like you can just jump into classes and just do it. Just start.
Yeah,
just go. Like fall on your face a few times, sure, but just like go for it.
It's so true. It's like the learning of acting is so experiential because it's like not even in just doing the craft of acting, but also like you need to live life to be an actor. You need to know what life looks like and feels like and how, you know, the trial and error of life itself to be able to have a grip on what this career really is, because that is what being an actor is just showing life experiences in different categories, you know? Yeah, I actually read a really cool quote this morning that was like 12 of the Nobel Prize writers in North America since, let me start that over. There have been 12 Nobel Prize writers for literature in North America since 1901, and none of them have a degree in writing.
Damn.
So when I read that, I was like, oh, that's so true, because
so
like
cool.
You don't need that. You don't need the credentials to prove that you're good at something. And I think that is something that people look at for acting, at least like, you know, I feel like it's changing a lot now, but even back in when we went to school, you know, 10, 12 years ago, it's like you still kind of were looked at based off of what school you went to, you know, your credentials. And it's like the conversation's kind of shifting where it's like you don't need the validation in that way. Like you don't need someone to say like, you went here, so you must be good. You know, it's like, no, it's, you can go somewhere. Whatever you put into it, you get back, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely train somewhere.
Yes.
But it's so much cheaper to do acting classes around the GTA, or just get some of your friends together and film something, film your own scenes for a demo reel if you're applying to agents. There's so many ways that's not $30,000 to a private college.
Yeah.
No regrets.
no regrets.
So then after school, I don't know how soon after, but you just hit the musical theater stage again and again and again. So how did you find it, and how did you get into musical theater?
Okay, so I definitely always had it in my head, like even when we were in film school, it's so ironic because this just shows how you evolve as a person over time. But like, I remember when we were in film school, I would always say like, I don't care about like film, I want to do theater. You know, I want to be on Broadway. It's not about the Oscars, it's about the Tony. That has changed a fair amount in my mind. I still obviously
Both of them matter,
but
EGOT.
yeah. So I found that I was searching more for like theater auditions at that time, and there are so many like community theater groups within the GTA. Like any town or city, really, you'll find at least one doing a show. But here there were just so many happening that I was like, okay, it's time. This is what we're gonna do. So actually, the very first theater audition I had, I think it was the first one, it might have been the second one, was for Lower Ossington Theater, which no longer exists. Very sad. And they were doing Wizard of Oz. And I look back now and I definitely made a lot of interesting choices regarding that audition.
Tell us about it.
Well, I thought...
No holding back in this podcast.
I thought it would definitely be better to have an early morning audition than an afternoon audition. And now knowing my voice and knowing my instrument, which comes from experience, early mornings are not it for me. Because you wake up in the morning, your chords are thick, you know, you have that lower voice, things are not as good. And if you don't give yourself that time to warm up properly, you're not going to sing properly. So
what did you wear?
I wore blue jeans and a blue long sleeve knit sweater that had like a slit. Tell me why I chose that, because in my brain I was like, if I'm going for Dorothy, you know, it's going to be too obvious if I wear like a dress and character shoes, and I didn't even know what character shoes were at that point, but it was like, I thought it would be too obvious. Sure enough, I go in and that's what all these girls are wearing, and I'm like, and I could tell when I walked into the room that they kind of were looking at me like, you seem a little too old.
Oh, no.
But that's not even something I should have worried about. I knew I wasn't really dressed appropriately. You know, you dress to suggest, but I think what it kind of showed was like how green I was. You know, I just didn't really know the etiquette of it. I didn't really know where to look. It was a good experience.
Well, that's how you learn.
Yeah.
Right? You learn on the go, and it is experiences like that. I've obviously heard that story before. Could you tell? What were you wearing? But yeah, you learn from experiences like that.
Yeah.
Do you wish you could bat 100s every single time? Absolutely. But you live and you learn. You live and you learn. And then you did, what was your next
The next thing I did was actually for a small, like, indie group. They've grown a lot more now. It was for Plays by Bird, and it was a play called A Wiki Wedding. So it was like written for this group, so it's not like a big published play. And the character that they said that I was going out for, they were like, oh, she sings. So I show up to this audition and I start singing, ironically, Home from Beauty and the Beast, but it's from the Broadway version, not the movie, like the animated version. So I didn't know this song. So I get in there thinking, okay, I'm going to do my big musical theater number. I'm singing this song, forget all the words. So I'm literally making up the words as I'm doing this audition. Somehow it worked out. So they were actually doing a version in Burlington and they were doing a version in Toronto. And I remember leaving that audition, I was like, well, what the fuck just happened there? Like, not realizing that one of the directors, because I didn't realize this either, there were two directors there because they're doing two different shows. Oh. So one of the directors is like a huge Broadway, like, Disney fan, so he knew all the words.
He was like, what the fuck is this
I literally
doing?
like made up all the words, and I remember this is a note in how you are not present during an audition, because I remember as I was singing it, I was like, wow, good for me, I rhymed that on the spot. Like, so yeah.
I was thinking that too as you said you made up words. I was like, man, that's an extra talent.
Holy cow! So yeah, I left and I'm like, well, not hearing from that again. They both called me, so I had a call the next day from the one director being like, hey, we would like you to be this role in the Burlington show. And I'm like, cool, yeah, that's great. I'll do it. And then about 20 minutes later, I had a call from the other director, hey, we would like you to be this character in the Toronto show. And I'm like, okay, well, I just got a call from the other guy offering me a different role in Burlington, but I would obviously rather do the Toronto one because it's here. And he's like, oh, he called you? I'm like, you guys did not communicate with each other. So it ended up being interesting. So I was then going to be doing the show here, but then depressing plot twist. The week that I opened, my dad passed away. So I did not do the show. But yeah, that was, just to bring it all down.
Just bring it all down for a quick hot minute. But yeah, I thought it was a different show. Oh, okay.
A wiki wedding, yeah. So then after that, I just took like a bunch of breaks from theater and was doing like short films and stuff like that. There are so many like hubs on Facebook, different groups where you can apply to different short films and things like that. So I was just really on that because I'm like, no, you know what? The film is what I want to do. Film is what I want to do. And actually running into a teacher from film school a couple years later, he said to me, I hadn't seen him in so long. It was Andrew Moody.
Oh, I love Andrew Moody.
Andrew Moody, we love you. And he said to me, he's like, you should get back on stage and use that voice. And I'm like, you know that I can sing? Like, you know that I can do that? I just remember feeling so like, what? And that's when I like found an audition for this show called South Pacific, if you guys know it, and really worked on it. It was my first, like, aside from like Wizard of Oz, it was the first show that I really like invested a lot of energy into learning and working on, and I was so nervous for that audition. I got in the ensemble and I remember feeling all kinds of ways about that, but it ended up being the most incredible experience, and being in that show led me to Beauty and the Beast right after, and it just like kickstarted this whole wave, because the musical theater community, especially here in Toronto, but really anywhere, I think, can be so small that it's like, it's just all networking and one thing leads to another. So it was amazing. It was actually from South Pacific, someone in my cast said, oh, there's this group doing Beauty and the Beast. And I remember like losing my mind, like, when is this? When is this? And I worked my ass off for that audition, went for this group, did the audition. The audition went so well in my mind. And on my way there, like on the subway, someone said to me, they're like, you look like a princess. I'm like, it's a sign. I did not get it. But I heard from someone at that audition, I overheard them. They were like, well, at least for anyone who doesn't get in this show, this other group, which Brampton Music Theater, I love them. They said, this other group is also doing Beauty and the Beast. And I was like, oh my God, there's another opportunity. And that just stuck in my head, and that was the one that I got. So it was like, things happen in surprising ways where it's like, I thought that this was where it was going, you know, but one door leads to another kind of thing. So it was just like really amazing how that all happened.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
I didn't think
we
about
should do
this.
more podcasts more often.
I know, it's funny because it's like cleaning out those parts of my brain where I'm like, oh yeah, that happened.
That's so nuts. And
Yeah.
with how musical theater works, I know you've explained it to me, and I completely forget. So with the it seems like everybody at the same time is doing Beauty and the Beast, and then everybody's doing Mamma Mia, and then everybody's doing Cinderella or whatever. Why is that?
Okay, so I could be wrong on this, so don't take my word for Bible.
We'll research it after.
But my understanding is that certain rights for shows, like for certain shows, become available like at specific times kind of thing. So it's like people will say like, oh, the rights for Mamma Mia just became available. So then a bunch of groups will apply for the rights to be able to do the show. And then like MTO, I don't know, it's, yeah, like the musical theater organization of the world, I don't know. They kind of look at it like, okay, where are all these groups located? Are they too close? Are they not? You know, can they do the show? And so they get like selected, they get approved, whatever. And so that's how certain groups can do it. But that's why you'll see a bunch of shows, like a bunch of groups will all do the same show because they just get like approved at the same time. Okay. So there are certain shows where like the rights have not been available for a very long time, like Phantom of the Opera, things like that. Right. So I think it has to do with what's on Broadway or touring as well.
I was going to say what's on sale.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it makes sense. If you're touring something around the world, you want everybody doing it because they want to make money off of.
Yeah. So I could be very incorrect about a lot of those details,
You
but
know
that's
what?
my understanding.
We'll dub over the correct answer over your voice.
Yeah.
Your lips will be moving, and we'll just put in the correct answer.
You can do that for most of this, I think.
She loved Toronto Film School. Best decision of her life. Do you have a favorite musical theater experience? Like a character that you really, really loved because you wanted it for so long, or like an ensemble that was like amazing chemistry or anything like that?
Okay, so for shows that I've done, I think Beauty and the Beast is like my number one. It was just such a magical, like, beautiful show. And it's been a dream role like since I was a toddler. But I mean, with every show there is like positive and less positive parts of it. But I think overall that one was the best. Or also, you know, even Mamma Mia, like that was another dream role of mine where I had a lot of fun while I was on stage. And then in terms of like witnessing musical theater, I'm trying to think. I feel like Wicked was definitely very cathartic for me. I saw that downtown here a couple years ago, and I just remember like blasting that Broadway cast recording every car ride we had, and like I had never seen the show, but I knew every word to every song and the whole story, and it was just like that orchestration is so incredible too. So when I finally saw it, I went by myself, and just like from the downbeat, like from the moment the conductor starts, I just was like sobbing and did not stop the whole time because it was just like, wow, like my inner child was just like, we finally have seen the show. Like it just, I don't know. I love just watching people do their thing, you know, like. It just feels so good to see, like, oh, someone's there. And theater is such an exchange in that way. Like, that's why I really love doing it. I feel like I get more out of doing theater than film because it is that exchange with the audience.
Yeah,
you know?
just a different energy altogether.
Just being so affected every show, like, oh, it's amazing. I love that feeling more than anything. So, it's gonna make me cry. Probably.
We cry
All the
every
time?
theater. I was gonna say every theater experience.
Yeah.
Because it's true. It's like you see someone doing like what they love doing, and it's what you love doing, and you're like, you're doing it.
Yeah.
It's just so beautiful.
And I always find it very inspiring. Like it doesn't ever make me feel envious, which is funny. Because like I don't know about you. Oh my god. I shouldn't say I never feel envious. There was definitely one time, but we'll get into that.
Well, let's get into it now. Which time?
Well, I think it goes with one of your questions.
Oh, does it? When?
You know what? For my own anonymity, I should probably not. But no, there was a role I really, 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 really wanted, and
I'm trying to think if I know what it is.
it would be very recent.
Okay.
And when I did not get it, I went and saw the show and was very frustrated. So please hire me. There's that.
Hire her and you won't have these problems. And your show won't suck.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I'm just kidding. Annie, what did you do after musical? Do you miss musical theater? Like, I know you said it was the best feeling ever, so do you want to do it again, or?
I do. I'm definitely really, here's where we get deep. I'm still really, like, trying to bounce back from the aforementioned loss of a role, but I don't know. It's an interesting place to be in because it is something that I really still love. I haven't seen any shows lately that I am called to do. Like, I don't know. I feel like the selection around right now is not really something I'm interested in. Like, I get very picky about my shows, which kind of doesn't help me. I'm not one of those actors that's like, I go out for everything because I just want to do it. It's
But I think that comes with like age and maturity, to be honest. Not
Okay.
like in a negative way, but like in our 20s, especially in my 20s, I'm like, I'll do anything. I can do everything and I'll be fantastic. And reality, no. But also after doing like some plays, you're like, you know what, now I just want to do the ones that like the roles that I really want to do. Like there is so much out there. It may not feel like it all the time, but there is so much going on creatively that you can do that there's no point doing a show that's going to like completely drain you, or you go to rehearsal and you don't want to be there and that kind of stuff. So I just want to do roles that are like roles that I really want to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I get that. There's no shame in being picky on your roles.
Okay, because there's definitely, so when you like go to the audition, they have a sign-in sheet too, and it says like, what role are you going for? And then there's another space that says like, will you accept ensemble? And I would always like,
No.
I would pretty much always put like the lead role and write like, no, I won't accept anything else. Because at the very beginning, I would feel like I just couldn't handle the envy. So when I did South Pacific and I was in the ensemble, our lead choice, and mind you, in South Pacific, there's like 3 lead women. One is in her 60s and she's Polynesian, and the other is also Polynesian and she doesn't speak at all. And then the other one is like, so really there's like one role. And our girl that got it, the moment you saw her, you're like, of course. Like, she did things with that role that did not even cross my mind. And she is like Kelly O'Hara 2.0. Like, she's incredible. So it made so much sense to me. And I just had the freedom of like exploring just what it was like to be on stage here, because it was kind of like my first like Toronto stage experience as well. So now I kind of, as the years have gone by, I've been like, you know what, no, because I know what I want to do. With certain groups, I don't want to commute all the way out there for ensemble, especially when I don't really care. And so I've been really lucky in the sense that like I do often get the roles I want. I feel very weird saying that, but that's
You're
the
allowed to
truth.
say that. If you were a man, he'd be saying that loud and proud and with no regret. We're allowed saying it.
Yeah.
Own it. We're practicing.
Yeah. So now with getting back into musical theater, I've actually been toying with the idea of stepping into the ensemble again, just as like, you know what, maybe it would be a good way to kind of like break the ice and get my feet wet again, especially because like it has been about 4 years now because of the pandemic since I've been on stage.
Yeah.
So it's like, am I prepped to do like a lead at this point? I mean, I don't think that really goes away, but I don't know. I feel like maybe just to get back into the love of it, doing
Warm
an
up
ensemble
a little bit.
Yeah, it would be
Yeah.
fun. So we'll see if there are any good shows coming out.
That's cool.
We'll go for that.
Exciting. So you famously took a break from acting.
Famously, it was all over the news.
Everyone knew. So what made you take that break?
Heartbreak, and not in a romantic sense. But actually, I think you could kind of look at it that way. I really look at my acting career. I've started to reframe it as like a relationship.
It's a full-on relationship.
It is a full-on relationship, and when I look at it, I kind of have to think of it as like BC-19 and AC-19, like before COVID-19, after COVID-19. And when I look at it before that pandemic, I really was like almost obsessive, People really give actors a lot of shit saying like, it's so hard and you have to be hustling all the time. And, if you're not thinking about it all the time, you have to eat, breathe, sleep acting. And I would do that, but it never came from a healthy place. It really came from like a desperate place. And then COVID happened, and that gave us all really the permission to slow down and reevaluate what we want. And I think every industry felt that shift, and so the conversation around acting and the hustle of it changed more to, as actors you have to live a life and experience that, to be able to have full depth when you act, you know? And so I kind of was already toying with that. And then I went for a show that I can honestly say I worked really hard on my strengths for that show. And I had a glaring weakness. Like, I really struggled to dance, and I know that. And yet I didn't really put much practice into dancing. And I thought, my strengths are going to get me by on this. That's that. And I did the audition, and everything went really, really well, except for the dancing. And sure enough, the show was cast, and the girl that they picked was a dancer. And I just remember feeling so many things. Like, I felt so sad that, like, I worked so hard and didn't get it. And then I turned it around and I got so angry at myself, like, clearly I didn't work hard enough. And it just became this, again, this like toxic, obsessive feeling. And then I just really came to this place where I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing with my life. Like, what is my career? Is this really where I thought I would be at this point, you know, like doing community theater and just talking down in all these ways of like looking at your life under a microscope and thinking none of it is viable and none of it is good. And it was so heavy and so hard to like live with. And I don't think I've ever felt that like that low. Like, I don't think I ever felt that bad, because it just, you know, it really was just like this whole future. It wasn't just I lost a role. That was like the you know, the straw in the camel's back. It was, I felt like I lost a whole future. I felt like I lost a whole vision for my life. I felt like I didn't know who I was. And this is something that I've known and pursued since I was a child. Like, I never gave thought to anything else. Yeah, I went to school for 1 year for one other thing, and even that whole time, I was dreaming about this. So just having that kind of put in question for the first time, I got to really see where my foundation was so unstable, and everything just kind of crumbled at that point. But I look at it now as I am like on the other side of that, and I go, okay, I have to really think about what my next steps are and see, like, can my foundation handle the stress test? You know, like, can I be okay with whatever happens? Because I was not okay with that, and I don't ever want to be in that place again. So I am grateful that I got to experience that now, rather than like later in my life, you know, building my whole life and future on this kind of illusion of like, I got it all under control, and then be at an even higher peak and fall. That fall would feel so much worse, you know?
Right.
So it's, yeah, so that's kind of why I took that step back. And it has been hard to like muster up the courage really to pursue it again. But the universe works in very funny ways. And, you know, in this course of time has handed me really incredible opportunities that somehow, I guess when you feel like you have nothing else to lose, you're just like, you know what, sure, let's do it. If it sucks, I already feel like I suck at everything, so whatever. And then it helps, you know, and that's how I got that feature film, and it was like, oh, that actually didn't go so bad. Okay, let's do another thing. So I feel like even when you don't have your own back, like, the universe has your back, you know? And of course, having people like you and, you know, that support network is so, so, so important, because, yeah, you were with me through some times there, so...
Yeah, but you do a lot on your own too, which is just, I mean, we both do it. And it's, I think, frustrating for each of us. So if you have friends that love you, reach out, because that's what they're there for.
Check on your people.
Check on your people. What is one of the things that you learned from that process? I know it was a lot that you learned, obviously, but any like key things that you would take away from it that you want to share?
Yeah, I think Yeah. To have a clear vision of your future, you have to have a clear vision of yourself. And what I mean by that is you have to really be unafraid to dive into those places and work through that stuff within you. Really get familiar with, who am I really? Who am I when I'm not an actor? Because that's what's going to be that support that holds you up when acting is not there. And you know, I've said this too so many times, but like the line that really like catapulted me into this new trajectory was like, the doctor that loses his hands loses his life. Because when you align yourself so entirely with what you do, you know, whether it be like, oh, I'm a mom, everything I do is dedicated to being a mom. You know, I'm not my own individual person, I'm a mom. My kids come first. That's admirable, but it's not healthy. And so people do that so often with their career, and I find that for actors, it's like encouraged for us.
Absolutely.
And I did that, and it like almost destroyed me. Like, not even in like a dramatic sense. Like I felt like I was nothing when I felt like I was not going to be an actor anymore. And it made me really darkly question my life and just kind of like what your value is, what you put into it. So now I look at it like, okay, if I'm going to hold on to this dream and this future, this life, this thing, this desire that I have, that try as hard as I fucking have, will not go away for anything. It's in there. Okay. Accept that it's in there, or go crazy trying to get rid of it. Now what am I going to do about that? And I have to look at it like, okay, get to know me first. Get so good with me that anything else is just bonus. Not my worth, my being is completely constructed around what I achieve. And our society really struggles with that as a whole. So that's kind of my word of encouragement for everybody in any like path of life, is like, get to know yourself like so well first. Clear vision of yourself. So
I love that. I love that. And I don't think, I think everybody, especially in like the acting community, there's this huge shame around taking breaks from acting. And like you said, it is the hustle culture of like, oh, well, don't lose your momentum, or like, or it'll all go away. And not true. And especially like in the early stages of your career, you feel like you have to get like to a certain point before you have to take a break. Like only A-list celebrities take breaks. But no, you can take breaks at any time. Acting will always be there. And celebrities do take breaks. Like, I have a list here.
Emily
actually
Blunt.
for you.
Emily Blunt just announced
Blunt. Emily Blunt. Jennifer Lawrence has. Sandra Bullock has. Emma Watson. And men do it too. So Ryan Reynolds, Ryan Gosling, Chris Hemsworth, they've all taken breaks from acting. So it's not something that you have to like drive yourself to continuously do until like there's nothing left of you.
Well, and I think it's so funny because we look at it and we look at all those people and go, well, they earned it. They earned it because, you know, they shot 3 films last year, and like they've been working since they were a teenager, and like, or she just had a baby. They deserve their break. And it's like, what about like you deserve a break because things feel like a lot right now, or like things don't feel like a lot. Things feel really nice, and the whole point of, you know, getting to that place in your career is so you can enjoy the nice things that come with it, right? And it's like, we don't have to earn our rest. And I think that that is still the change that needs to be made.
Absolutely. And you're right, like COVID did wake up that in a lot of people, but now it's over and like everybody's back to the grind, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, did we learn nothing?
Yeah. Well, and I think that people really look at acting too as like, if you stop, that means you failed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or like if you get like a Joe job, they would call it, you know, then you are not trying hard enough.
Also, like, when in this acting career, there's a lot of times when you're not working as an actor, and so you're working the other jobs that pay your bills.
Yeah.
Which also, no shame in doing. Preferably pick something you like, though. But yeah, like there is that whole, oh, you're a failure if you take a break on acting. You're taking a break regardless of whether you want to or not in between jobs most of the time.
Yeah.
So to take a break from like, okay, you know what, after this project, I won't do classes. I'm just gonna focus on me and what's going on with me and live life, see my family, things like that. No shame. It's necessary, actually.
Yeah. And as we keep saying, that is the stuff that's going to color your work, that's going to give you that depth, that understanding, and just make you a better actor. Like
100%.
That's like the best work you could do.
Right? Just watch your weird family members and their mannerisms, and for your next character, copy them.
Yeah.
So you're in an indie film that happened just this last year called X-Files, Pals, and Pocket Dials.
You got it. Yep.
Nice. So how was that experience for you?
It was amazing. It was like, I love indie film. We were talking about this earlier because it just really is so collaborative, and I feel like everyone really puts their all into it.
Yes.
So it was a small crew and low budget, but that's like where the magic happens, It really was like a very free set to kind of get to play and exercise those muscles I haven't used in a long time. And it was like a really safe place for me to kind of like step back into the arena for the first time. And, it was like the lead role, which was really nice for my ego, but also like brings with it like a lot of responsibility. And it was nice to get to focus on like, well, I can't be insecure about this because I have to just do the work. I have to just be prepared so I can show up doing my best, whatever that looks like at this time, because I think that we always kind of keep this idea of like, it has to be perfect. It has to be an Oscar-worthy performance. And I'm like, nobody from the Oscars is going to be watching this right now. So chill.
Yet.
Yet. And if you do, hire me. So yeah, it was really, really nice, and I got to work with people I know as well. And just, I touched on this earlier where it was like just the way I was like handed this opportunity at a time when, I was really like in the mud, really questioning everything, feeling like, oh, the weight of the world. But then this like came up. A friend of mine said, hey, I have a director I've worked with who's doing this project. He's looking to cast. I thought, you fit the description if you want to audition. And literally my brain was just like, I said, well, it can't get any worse, so sure.
Right.
And it went great. I read the role, and I remember thinking like, wow, she sounds exactly like me. So it was like a very comfortable role for me. I didn't feel like I had to stretch too much, which you don't always look for in roles, but it was a very comfortable place to start back from. So yeah, it was really, really fun, and it was like the longest project I've worked on, and we shot for like 3 weeks in May, and it was really, really exciting in a different way, because I feel like, I don't know about you, but sometimes I get really caught up in the excitement of saying that I'm doing something rather than the actual doing of it. So it was really nice to finally have an answer to, what are you up to these days? Oh, I'm shooting a film. Wow. Like it just,
Uncle Henry, take that.
yeah, fuck you. So it was a really nice like jumping board for me, and it kind of just reminded me that like, I am capable of doing this, and it is actually fun. When you step away from something for so long, you start to, I don't know, sometimes you can either start to really miss it, or you can start to really dread it. And sometimes I would look at like the hustle of acting and get really like overwhelmed thinking, but I'm not a hustle person. I don't do hustle culture. Like I hate
Right.
working. I work 2 days a week. So it's like I was starting to get worried, like, am I going to have to hustle for acting? Am I going to have to really like work to do that? And thankfully this didn't feel like it. It felt like, oh yeah, I actually love doing this work.
Yeah.
I love spending hours doing this thing. And I had just spent months telling myself that I didn't. So it was like a very
Right?
refreshing kind of wake up call.
Yeah. I
But-
felt that way with theater, with like, you know, going back to it, you're just like, yeah, no, I do love this. I love waiting
Yeah.
in the wings and being like, here I go.
Yeah, I do love the adrenaline rush of it, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really, really, really exciting. So that'll be out next spring. I don't know what the plan is for it. They were looking at like the festival circuit and looking for distributors, things like that. So who knows? But
Exciting.
yeah, it's a really good practice in not working for the outcome, just
Yes.
doing it.
Yes.
And I think that that is something I have to remind myself a lot, is it's not always about the outcome.
I love that.
So
What is the one thing that you hate non-actors, non-creatives asking you or telling you when you're like, I'm an actor, and then they're like, oh,
well, when they're like, what are you doing next? Fucking your mom?
yeah,
I don't know.
That is a rude question to ask an actor. Let them offer you the information. I feel
No.
like just be
Yeah.
like, wow, that's great, and move on. Move on to the
No.
next.
Or another thing I really, really hate is when people are like, oh, so you just want to be famous? Yes, bitch. No.
Hey, Dale, what do you just want to make partner? Like,
Yeah, it's like, I'm sorry, is that the worst thing in the world? Like,
Right.
to want that? I think that we really get so, like, people look at actors and go, you are not a successful actor unless you're well known. And then if you say you want to be well known, you're too egotistical, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, or your focus is off, your priorities are wrong. It's like, I'm sorry, so I can't win either way. Like, you want me
Right.
to be proud of myself, but not so proud that I say that actually I want to level up. I want to be the best, you know? I
Right.
want to do this and do that. You know?
Amen.
So it's just like, yeah, okay, you know what? If Hollywood comes calling, I'm not gonna turn them down, you know?
Right.
If any of that shit happens, great. Do I want to spend my life kind of doing, you know, just community theater and student films? Not really.
I'd be happy, but I mean, I could be happier.
Exactly. It's like I'm grateful for them when they come up, and I love having the space to like exercise. But that's not it. You want to grow. You want to keep reaching
Yeah.
for the next.
Yeah, the
level.
dreaming never stops. And if it stopped for you, in your career, not acting, it obviously never stops.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna finish this podcast with one last question, and then I have like a rapid 5 questions
Oh,
that
okay.
really mean nothing. But okay, so my last question for you is what's next for you, but not in the sense of like what project is lined up. I mean, like, what is something that you've always wanted to try and you're thinking, maybe I'll try that next? Or what is something that you've always wanted to dabble in that you haven't yet? Or is this something that you want to go back to?
Ooh. Okay. I did not think about this question.
That's all right.
Okay. Well, I feel like right now. I have to. What is this question again?
Well, just like what you like, would you be interested in doing theater next? Like, are you dying to get back into
Oh.
theater, or do you want to do TV shows, or you want to
Okay.
try another feature film? Like, what?
We're gonna edit
if
this
we're gonna
out.
if we're gonna manifest something for you in this podcast, what is something that you would like to try next? It doesn't have to be immediately next.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
like, what is something that you would like to hold in the future for you?
Okay, I would love to do another musical very soon.
Nice.
Yeah, just really waiting for like a good show.
The right musical.
Yeah. And I guess like in terms of film, I don't have an agent anymore. So if any agents are watching this, please contact me.
I'll give you her number.
So yeah, I need to do that. I think right now my focus is gonna be just like skill building. Like
Nice.
yeah. So I'm gonna try to get my license this year.
Yay! Finally.
And I gotta do some like dance classes, you know, we're doing the work here. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, we gotta do the work out there as well. So
Nice.
yeah, so musical is what I want to really do next. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Yay. Alrighty, we're going to finish off this podcast with the fast 5 questions.
Okay.
And
Rapid
just
fire.
kind of like whatever comes to the top of mind. If you want to dive deeper into it, you can. All right. Favorite candy?
Ooh, gummy peaches, fuzzy peaches.
Yes.
They're so good.
Oh my God, yes. Name 3 on-set must-haves.
Ooh, water.
True. And like specifically her water bottle. Like
My security blanket.
yeah, it's not just like water in general, it's her water bottle. I just need
Do
to
not
clarify
hand me
that.
Dasani or Aquafina or I will full debone your ass. All right. Okay, 3 on-set must-haves. Yeah, water. I feel like slippers. Like I need my feet to be like
Ooh,
warm.
That's a good one.
Yeah, like
'Cause it's
I have
cold
those like
sometimes on
slipper
set.
socks. Yeah, because I'm just like I need to feel warm.
I'm gonna
and
add that to mine.
like your script, obviously. I don't know.
Nice.
No. Okay, so I have the most amazing thing. If you are not already on the cue card train for when you're on set, do it. I did it for my feature film where I had these cue cards. Each scene was on a cue card, and I did just the first letter of each word in
For your line or for their line?
for theirs as well, for
Okay.
all of ours. So it would be like, you know, if my line was "What are you doing?" it would be like my character initial and then like WAYD ? And it just helped
Oh.
me to like it helps so much with memorization. It was really accessible on set. Like you could just pull it out. Like if someone's like, "Oh, what's my line?" "Oh, this," or you know, like, and
Right.
it was so incredibly helpful, and I had never tried it until this time, and I will never not do it. So cue
Amazing.
cards, cue cards.
Ooh, cue cards. I gotta look more into that. That sounds awesome. Next question is favorite guilty pleasure show.
The Kardashians or Grimm. Right now is
Ooh.
Grimm. I love my sci-fi fantasy things, but yeah, for reality TV, I love them Kardashians. I
We
don't
won't
know.
judge you severely. A quote you live by or try to live by.
No one is me. That is my power.
Ooh, we got
Real rapid fire.
Oh, yeah. And a piece of advice for other creatives who are just starting out in their acting journey. Not that this podcast wasn't full
I
of
know,
them
I'm like-
already.
How
What
convoluted
would
can I
you
be?
tell younger Emily?
Be gentle with yourself. Like, you just gotta be gentle with yourself. We're all so hard on ourselves. Be gentle with yourself. Give yourself the grace to make mistakes. Get excited about mistakes. Fail fast, you know?
I love that. Get excited to make mistakes.
Yeah.
100%.
Really working very hard to apply that in my own life, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's true. And I mean, practice makes perfect with those kind of things, right? Like,
Yeah.
you can't just be like, I'll say it enough and then I'll be good. It'll be like, you gotta actually fail and then be like, no, remember I said it was okay. Or we practice this.
Yeah.
We're fine. So yeah, I love that. That's
Yep.
perfect.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much, Emily,
Thank
for
you
being
for
my
having me.
very first guest on my podcast. I'm so excited for the future. This was like a beautiful first episode. We got deep.
I know.
And it was so comfortable doing it with you.
I love you.
I hope it
I
was
love
good
you.
for you too.
It's okay. I might call you tomorrow.
Alright, cool. Alrighty, thanks for watching
Thank
and
you.
join us with the next podcast.